Everyone knows that a healthy diet is critical for optimizing your health. In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly how to plan and structure a diet that'll work for you and your goals. Whether you're looking to increase muscle mass, burn body fat, or maintain your already healthy weight, this is a way that we can structure a diet plan that'll work every time. So we're gonna break it down into 6 steps, with step 7, of course, being profit, i.e. gains in this case. Number 1 is gonna be calories. So we're gonna determine the exact amount of calories that we need. Then we're gonna determine how many of those calories need to come from protein. Protein's the primary building block for your muscle, and it's super important. After that, we'll figure out how to track and adjust. I'll share with you the exact app that I use, as well as some alternative options, and how to make tracking your macros very easy. And number 6, we'll optimize, make changes as adjustments need to happen over time due to changing goals, due to changing progress, and make sure that this diet stays appropriate and correct for you. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, calories. So we're gonna determine the amount of calories that we need by calculating something called energy balance. Essentially, you take energy in from your food, and what you consume, all of the nutrients that come into your body that are consumed are your energy in, and then your energy out is what you expend. There's 3 main components to this energy out. There's BMR, this might also be called RMR, but that's basal metabolic rate or resting metabolic rate. This is the amount of energy that your body uses just maintaining homeostasis, beating your heart, digesting food, recovering tissue, all those sort of things. Next, you've got activity, so calories that are burned as you're physically moving through space, doing activity, doing mechanical work. And then the last one here, TEF, the thermic effect of food. That's essentially additional energy that's required to break down certain foods and nutrients. This is a pretty small one. Most of the energy out comes from your basal metabolic rate. And then activity is obviously variable based on how active you are throughout the day. If you're very sedentary, this will be lower. If you're super active, this will obviously be higher. All right, and y'all know that I love visuals, so I created a quick little visual here so you can solidify the concept. So imagine you've got like this teeter-totter, right? That's supposed to be the fulcrum in the middle. That's this lever, and the side, just like a scale, the side with more weight is gonna go down. So in this case, you've got more energy in this case, you're equal. And then in this case, you've got more energy going out. And then if you just add this little arrow on the end of it, that will actually signify which way your body mass, your weight, is gonna trend. So if you have more energy coming in, you'd be gaining weight. If you have equal energy coming in as what's going out, you'll be maintaining weight. And then if you're expending more energy, you'll be losing weight. All right, so now let's calculate your specific numbers. First thing we're gonna do is calculate your BMR. I like to just use a online calculator. I'll drop one in the description that you can use. If you really want to nerd out and use the formulas, here they are right here. Then you're going to add the amount of calories that'll offset your energy. Again, if you use an online calculator, they'll have rough guidelines for like if you're sedentary, very active, moderately active, etc. And then at that point, you'll have your maintenance calories. So in this example, we're going to use 2,400 for Steve's maintenance calories. And then depending on your goal, we're gonna modify that so that it's higher or lower. So if your goal is to gain weight, you wanna be in a surplus. Personally, I'd recommend a surplus somewhere between 250 and 750 calories on the top end. The bigger the surplus, the faster you're gonna gain weight, but it's not really ideal if you're just packing on additional body fat. And then if you're wanting to lose weight, same deal, you're just gonna subtract those calories. As far as weight loss and deficits go, I think you can go a little bit bigger on the deficit if you're really willing to, frankly, suffer a little bit and you're really committed to quick progress. But make sure this is something that's sustainable. You'll probably be somewhere around that 250 to 500 calorie per day deficit. And a really quick rule of thumb that you can use to kind of calculate what sort of weight loss or weight gain you might be able to expect is know that 3,500 calories equates to 1 pound, whether that's muscle or fat. That's the amount of calories that equate to a pound. So you can take your deficit or your surplus, let's say your deficit is 500, multiply that by 7, because 7 days in the week, you've got 500 each day, and that's exactly 1 pound of fat loss. So hypothetically, if you're spot on here, which you're not going to be, it's not possible, but we wanna get as close as we can. If we were spot on here, we would lose exactly 1 pound of fat. Water loss, electrolyte changes, all that kind of stuff aside. All right, so let's start building out Steve's plan. So here are his stats. His body weight's 160. His calories that he's decided to use are going to be 2,000. Remember, his maintenance calories were 2,400, but he wants to be in a deficit of 400 calories per day. So pretty sustainable, but he'll also make good progress, probably just under about a pound of fat per week. Really good deficit. So now we want to figure out, okay, of that pie slice that includes all of his calories, how many of his calories are going to come from protein, carbs, and fat. Now to do this, we have to do a little bit of math, and we have to know that protein and carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. A calorie, by the way, is just a measurement of energy. I think specifically it's the energy required to raise the temperature of a gram of water 1 degree Celsius, I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, and then fat has 9 calories per gram, so a little more dense. But we're going to use those numbers to figure out how big of a slice each of those macronutrients should get from the pie. Also, just kind of a side note, technically alcohol and ketone bodies have calories as well, 7 and 4 respectively. All right, so our man Steve is rocking and rolling. He's got his calories figured out. He knows exactly where he's going to be. So now we're going to move on to his protein needs. Based on my experience strength training clients, and learning about strength training and muscle and performance, I found that multiplying your body weight by, on the lower end, 0.7, and then on the higher end, 1.2. Anywhere in that range is going to be healthy for most people. So for Steve, that comes out to 112 on the lower end and 192 on the higher end. We're going to put him right in the middle at 160. Now a note here, if you're in a very large calorie deficit, you'll probably want to lean towards the higher end of this. Also, if building muscle is your top priority and you're training extremely hard, you're doing a lot of strength training, resistance training, very heavy loads, you'll also probably want to be on the higher end of this. All right, so now our man Steve remembers that protein has 4 calories per gram. So he knows that his 160 grams of protein that he's going to get is going to equate to 640 calories. So if we divide that by his total calorie count, which is 2,000 again, we'll get 32. So now we know what size the protein slice of the pie is going to be. It's going to be 32, just about a third of that slice. So we'll start filling in that pie, and then next we'll talk performance needs and energy ratios to figure out carbs and fat. All right, we are rocking and rolling now. So now we've determined that we need 160 grams of protein, so we've got that slice filled in. So now we know that we have a certain number of remaining calories, which we calculated to be 1,360. Took our initial 2,000, subtracted our protein calories. So that's what we've got to work with, and that's going to be distributed between carbs and fat. So you'll see at this point, I've got a graph of carbs and fats, and we're covering performance needs and energy ratios. That's because these two are pretty interlinked, and the performance need is going to educate the energy ratio. So generally speaking, not for everybody, but as performance requirements go up, i.e. more strenuous training, more sprinting, fast twitch movements, heavy movements, or just extreme endurance, things like that. As the performance requirements go up, the preference for your body to use carbs for energy is also going to go up. So because of that, we've essentially got, along this increasing performance axis, an increase in carbs as a percentage of the remainder of the calories, and a decrease in fat, because we've only got a fixed amount to work with, so we know if one goes up, the other has to come down. And then I put at the bottom here just kind of some rough estimates of where this would actually be. Probably like a 30-70 split at the lower end, 50-50, probably where most people would sit, and then 70-30. So let's break down exactly where the rest of these calories come from and figure out the numbers for those. So now we're rocking and rolling. So I broke down these percentages so you can have a little bit of an idea visually of how many of his calories would be coming from carbs and fat. And if you kind of visually look at these, it makes sense that most of your calorie energy would come from carbs if you have a higher performance requirement. But essentially how we figured these out is we took the remaining calories, so 1360, multiplied that by the ratio, so 30% or 0.3 in this case, and that gives you the calories that are going to come from that. Again, the blue are all carbs here. So he's going to get 480 calories from carbs. Now again, remember carbs have 4 calories per gram. So we divide that 480 by 4 to get to the number of grams of carbs. Same thing for fat, except fat's 9 calories per gram. So we're using that 9 there, and he would have 106 grams of fat here. So for our example here, let's say he has a moderate performance requirement. So he's probably going to be about 50-50. So his macros would be 160 protein, 170 grams of carbs, and 76 grams of fat. And that's pretty much it. So now he's got his fully customized plan that takes into account his calorie needs, his protein needs, and his performance needs and is customized for him. So now let's talk about ways to track it, adjust, and sort of optimize over time. All right, so now we've got his macros all mapped out. We can see exactly what that'll look like, and we just need to start putting in the work and start getting consistent with following this diet. So there's a couple tracking apps that are really good for this. I personally use Chronometer and have for a very long time. The free version is awesome. The free version has almost everything I would want. There's, I think, micronutrients and things that come with the pro version. I don't know, this is not a Chronometer app, but I like that. It's a good one. MyFitnessPal also has a really good one. And both of these actually have a scan feature. So you can literally just like scan a barcode of a food and it'll pull up all the nutrition info. So super easy way to do it. Now, if you've never tracked your macros before, I would highly encourage you to do so, because as you start tracking, you'll start to get a feel for what sort of foods have, what macronutrient profiles, what sort of foods are high in protein. You get a feel for kind of how a certain number of calories feels. So you'll know about how 2,000 calories feels. You'll know about how 160 grams of protein feels. And a huge benefit of that is once you've tracked for a decent amount of time, you don't have to do it for the rest of your life. Once you get close to your target goal weight and you know roughly how that amount of food feels, what your satiety level's like, what your hunger's like throughout the day, you can, I don't want to say guesstimate, but you kind of can guesstimate just based on feel and, taste and fullness, roughly what you're getting if you don't want to continue tracking and being super, super serious and strict. But that is a huge benefit of starting tracking initially, is just that education, just learning what certain foods, certain calorie counts feel like. I think that's huge. So if you want like 2 to 3 weeks of effort for a huge positive benefit for the rest of your life, track your food. Start for like a week. See how you're feeling. Probably just the act of putting your food into an app and being more conscious of what you're doing. You don't even have to set your macros up. Just the act of uploading everything that you're eating and having to take note of it and having to remember every little condiment, every coffee creamer, every sugar packet, all those things will make you very conscious of what's going into your body. And if you can get a visual representation of it like this, maybe you don't even set up your macros. You just track and you see roughly what your graph looks like, roughly where you're at, compare it to what we outlined in this video. That'll give you a good way to adjust. And then again, you'll get used to how certain things feel, make small adjustments over time, and you will crush it. All right, so now that we're tracking, because we know that the sign of a good bodybuilder is how precisely he can eyeball 100 grams of chicken. So now we're just down to optimizing. And really all this is recalculating your BMR and activity levels if those change, or if it seems like what you initially estimated isn't quite accurate. You're losing significantly more or significantly less weight than you would expect, or you're gaining significantly more or less. If that feels very off and it's not close to that anticipated rate of progress that we estimated based on that 3,500 calories to a pound math earlier in the video, adjust your BMR values and kind of get a feel for what's actually right and what's actually true for you. Again, as you track over time, this is something that you'll kind of become familiar with and it'll become almost second nature. And lastly, once you've got that dialed in number, you can adjust calories to change your rate of progress. So you can go to a larger surplus if you want to start gaining weight faster, or a larger deficit if you want to lose weight faster. You can also slow down if it seems like, maybe you're trying to lose weight, but you're starving all the time. Okay, slow it down, make it more sustainable. Same thing with bulking, right? If you feel like you just can't get enough calories, okay, slow it down, make it more sustainable. I also made a video talking about weekly macros. I'll pin that up here. And that breaks down a super, super helpful way to track your macros over the course of a week. That gives you a lot more flexibility. So check that video out if you're interested in that one. All right, guys, that's it for this one. So if you like the video, please drop me a like. Subs are super appreciated. As you can tell, I'm a small channel trying to get out there and make it. So very much appreciate you guys and your time, and hope you got something good out of this one. All right, see you in the next one.